Alright, yo, so hello and welcome, everybody. What is going on? So, we're here today with Stel. Um, talking about the Champions League. Fun stuff, good stuff. First of all, Stel, introduce yourself. Where could they find you?
Well, Prince, thanks for inviting me on your show. You've got a very, very big following, and it's an honor to be on your show because you came on mine, and it's nice to work alongside you again.
Yep.
So yeah, my name's Stel. I host a show called Shoot the Defense. If you have heard of it, then you can just press mute while I keep on talking. If you haven't, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on a wonderful network called the FNX Network in Australia. And we have guests, whether it be ex-players, coaches. I'm trying to think of if we had any Germans on. We had Marcus Neumeyer, but he's Austrian, I think. No, he's German, actually. Used to play for United back in the day. So, yeah. I do it on my own like you do. I thoroughly enjoy it, and yeah, I'm excited to be on the show again.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. So yeah, today we just want to talk about the Champions League. The Champions League, the biggest competition in Europe. Some say it's bigger than the World Cup. I don't think so. But there's currently a massive debate going on that the German teams are failing. And obviously with the rise of the English teams, there's obviously a big debate going on whether spending that kind of money leads to success, whether it doesn't. And I just thought we should maybe talk about, just the two leagues, the two German and English leagues, and how they perform in the Champions League in general.
Okay.
So since you're obviously a United fan,
Yep.
should we start with United?
Sorry.
Should we start with United? How have you guys
Yep.
done in the Champions League so far?
Uh, well, it's 2 wins, 6 points out of six. Can't complain, really. 2 wins, one clean sheet. We conceded that goal against CSK Moscow. I kind of flicked over the channel to watch your game to see what was going on in that one, actually, when CSKA scored. But yeah, we've got a relatively straightforward group. There's always this notion that United get easy draws in the Champions League, which I don't think is fair because there's no such thing as an easy draw anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Anyway, the competition is so strong. I mean, you do see, your smaller teams like your Apoels and whatnot. And I can say Apoel because I'm Cypriot, yeah. So people that get offended, I can say Apoel, and they're doing really badly in the Cypriot league at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, you do get the odd shock result, but listen, let's be 100% honest. From United's standpoint, should we be top of the group? Yes. Should we be beating the likes of CSKA Moscow and Basel? Yes. So, what can you say? I mean, at the end of the day, it's lose-lose for United because if we win, then people say, "Oh, well, you should have beaten them."
Yeah.
But if we don't win, then it's like, "Oh, you're a disgrace and you spent all that money." So, what can you say? At the end of the day, we're top of the group. We're scoring goals for fun at the moment,
Okay.
and I just like this new physical presence that we have. It just seems like we're bullying teams in Europe now. So yeah, I'm very happy. Very happy.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I do agree with you that you're kind of in a lose-lose situation. You either win and then or you beat a small team, or you lose and it's like, well, you waste a lot of money. So I totally understand the situation that you're coming from. But looking towards the future, how far do you think you guys could get potentially?
I think it obviously depends on the draw, who we get.
Yeah.
I think on our day we can beat anyone. That's a cliche, isn't it? On your day, anyone can beat anyone. It's a cliche. But the thing is, if we've got a fit 11 and Mourinho has the 11 that he wants to put out on the pitch, we can beat anyone. It's a fact. I mean, we lost to Real Madrid in the Super Cup final, and I was actually at the Champions League final between Juventus and Real Madrid. I got it through because I'm a UEFA accredited journalist. So I got my ticket through there, and Real Madrid were a different class. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen Barcelona when they tore us apart in the Champions League final, both times actually, and they didn't have that fear factor that Real Madrid did that day against Juventus, and they took us apart in the Super Cup. But at the end of the day, listen, in a one-off game, you never know what could happen. But the thing is, over two legs, you can't call it. But I think if we get to the quarterfinals, I think that'll be respectable, given that we haven't been in the competition for a couple of years.
That makes sense.
You know what? Listen, at the end of the day, when it comes down to the business end of the season, if we've got players that are fit, if Pogba's on form, if Matic is still in the same form that he's in, if Lukaku's still scoring goals, if Martial is still putting defenders on their asses, why not? I'm not saying we're going to win it, but let's go for it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty respectable. I had to talk about weaknesses because you're probably the best person to ask about that. What are the weaknesses for United?
defensively, funny enough, I know people are going to laugh and say, "Oh, you've only conceded 2 league goals, this season." But when I look at Phil Jones and Chris Smalling, like they played against Crystal Palace at the weekend, if Christian Benteke had played, he'd have bullied both of them. I've never rated Smalling, never have. I can't see what managers see in him. Has he got like dirt on them or something? Because
Smaldini.
Yeah, like, Ferguson played him, Moyes played him, Van Gaal played him, Mourinho played him, like even the England managers played him. So what is it about Chris Smalling? Because I see a deer in headlights.
Okay.
That's what I see when I see Chris Smalling. Phil Jones, he's in good form at the moment. I can't criticise him for that. The problem with Phil Jones is that he injures himself. Whether it be in training or whether it be trying to head the ball that's on the ground. That's a worry. Eric Bailly hasn't been the Eric Bailly of last season. He ball watches a lot recently. I've noticed that, and that's the one rule of defending: just do not watch the ball, follow the man. And he's been doing that a lot this season. And he's one of these defenders that, because he's got an abundance of pace, he's able to make that up. Exactly, But listen, as you get older, you get injuries. If he gets an Achilles injury, he'll lose a couple of yards of pace. Then what? But it's all ifs and buts on them. And like I said, defensively, I know that Mourinho sets his stall out to be a defensive-minded side, and United are more effective as a unit when you're defending in numbers. But yeah, it's the personnel. Lindelof is new, so it's unfair to pass any judgment on him. I think we've got Rojo to come back, and to be fair, Rojo was one of our best players last season. I think he was outstanding.
Okay.
And we saw in that FA Cup game against Chelsea where he absolutely manhandled Diego Costa. So he's got it in him. So yeah, but I think defensively is our problem. I'm happy with our fullbacks. I think we've got a lot of cover in there. Valencia's been fantastic. Ashley Young's come in and he's done a superb job. Jury's out on Luke Shaw. But I think if he returns to fitness and keeps his head down and stays focused, I think he can be a regular. So yeah, I think centre defence is a concern, but anywhere else, I don't have any problems with. We're good going forward. I've got my qualms about Mkhitaryan. A lot of Dortmund fans follow your channel. I can't see the hype, to be honest. I don't know whether it's because, no disrespect, Man United are a bigger club and the expectancy is more there, and it's something that I say that the weight of the shirt kind of determines the player, so to speak. If they can't handle that pressure, if the club's too big for them, I don't know. I just think I like him, but he's got a lot of negatives. And I think if he can overcome the little things like running into defenders, or just making bad decisions when it comes to the final third, because he's got it in his locker. He's got the creativity. We've seen it. I mean, you've seen it in the Bundesliga. But I don't know. I don't know whether it's a mental thing for him. Because let's be honest, he's done it at the highest level, hasn't he? He did it at Shakhtar. He did it at Dortmund. So why can't he translate that to Man United? I mean, the Premier League isn't as great as what people think it is from a defensive standpoint, because you see every game averages like 3 goals.
That's true.
So, so I don't know. He's my one gripe going forward. Okay. But that's about it. Listen, anyway, he's still relatively young, isn't he?
That's true.
So yeah, let's see. That
actually kind of reminds me.
You get a whole lot of comments from Dortmund fans saying, "I get this guy."
Hopefully not. Just blocked.
Well, we had that with Kagawa, didn't we? We had it with Kagawa. Kagawa came in from Dortmund, big reputation, and but the physicality of the Premier League wasn't to him. I mean, he was a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong. Like his vision, his passing, his movement was great, but it's the physicality. It's a different animal, and he's gone back to Dortmund. Then he's gone back to what it was like before. So
exactly.
It's hit and miss, I guess.
Mkhitaryan, especially considering that obviously he had massive struggles at Dortmund as well, where his first, I think, 2 seasons, or his first season, he was pretty awful. And then in the second season, once Tuchel came in, he actually improved and he looked like one of the best players in the world. So, I don't know.
But Dortmund are a club that will give you that time. They'll give you the opportunity to evolve and better yourself, kind of thing. But they're not like a Man United, but it's like you've got a year and a half max. I mean, I know for a fact that when Mkhitaryan was taken off against Man City, and we're talking about the 4th game of last season, 4th or 5th game last season, he wanted out.
Okay. He
wanted out. He actually requested a transfer, and he had to sit down with Mourinho. And they thrashed out their differences, so to speak, and they're all right now. But then I've got to question his mentality. Well, you're at one of the biggest clubs in the world, mate.
Exactly.
Not many people get that opportunity. So take it with both hands, because it's all well and good doing it, in the Bundesliga against the likes of Hanover or whatever. No disrespect, but when you're coming across teams like Burnley who like to kick you about, you got to have it up here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I mean, there is that saying: "Can you do it on a wet, cold Tuesday night?"
Stop it. Stoke is poor though. I mean, my mate Rodri, he's played there a couple of times, and he says like it's grim. It really is grim, and that wind when it gets, because it's actually on a hill. I've driven past Stoke, and it's pretty high up. So but no, you're right. Can he do it on he actually got an assist against Stoke, to be fair, this season. So.
There you go. Maybe it's upwards from here. Speaking of United, let's talk about your rivals, Manchester City, because they seem to be cruising, especially, I mean, not just on the European stage, but also domestically. The recent win against Chelsea, their performance in the Champions League as well. They just seem to be the team to beat, I guess, in England, you could say. Do you agree?
I do, yeah. I mean, let's be 100% honest. They went to the home of the champions and they won convincingly. I know it was only 1-0, but I don't remember Chelsea having a sniff, really. They bossed possession. They had more chances, and I mean, look, it's a credit to Guardiola that Conte effectively played with 7 at the back. If you think about it, look, they're a good team. They're a very good team. They've got some fantastic footballers like De Bruyne, Silva. I can draw a list. Ederson's come in. He's done relatively well, even though he hasn't really had much to do. And we saw this last season with City, where they went on this surge. They won the first 9 or 10 games or something like that, and it carried on. But then they faltered a bit. They started, and then here came the winter months. You know, there's a quote from Game of Thrones: "Winter is coming," isn't it? And they seem to go on the wane a little bit when the winter months hit. I don't know whether it's a psychological thing. I don't know whether it's a squad thing. The one thing I need to ask you, actually, because you know better than I, Pep Guardiola, has he, without trying to get you sued for anything, has he got some kind of special doctor that kind of has magic hands or something, like Mr. Miyagi, where he
nope,
to recover?
I wish he had that. I wish he had that at Bayern, because we just had injuries after injuries under him.
Well, the funny thing is that there's a nickname. We call him Ped Guardiola, P-E-D. And there's a bit of suspicion that he likes to use that performance-enhancing drug kind of thing to get his players back on track. And I don't know. Look, he's a fantastic manager. You can't knock the guy for what he's achieved. People say that he's an inheritance merchant. Okay, fine. It's easy to win titles when you've got Messi and all these. But having said that, you've got to get them on your side. You know, we've seen other managers in the past coach these teams, and the players just turn against them because either they don't like his methods or they don't like, his tactics or whatever. So obviously Guardiola was doing something right. He was doing something right at City. And to be fair to Man City, I don't like being fair to Man City. I can't stand them as you'd expect. But from people that I know that work at the club or have been involved in the club in some way, and having been someone that regularly goes to the Middle East and speaking to people that know about the royal family, Abu Dhabi, that own Man City, there's a long-term project here. It's not like they come in just to invest their money and to get a return on investment. They've got a long-term project. They want to leave a legacy. And you can see in Manchester what they've done for the local community, with the kids, with the training grounds, with the relationships they have with schools, with the local hospitals. They're trying to, obviously trying to get the majority of fans on their side. So they know what they're doing from a PR perspective, but it's what happens on the pitch that matters. And when you've got players like Sergio Aguero going to the Netherlands for a concert and ending up in a car crash, for me, as great as Aguero is, he's my favourite striker at the moment, to be fair.
Okay.
I hate to admit, I think he's fantastic.
Interesting.
No, I think he's a phenomenal striker. He really is. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. I mean, I tweeted about it the other day. Why isn't he mentioned as one of the greatest ever Premier League strikers? Because what he's done for Man City, I mean, he's 1 goal away from being their all-time goal scorer. He's been there for, 5 years, if that?
He has been incredible.
He's a phenomenal striker. He reminds me of how Romario was back in the day. You know, small, quick, nimble, low center of gravity, great finisher. But yeah, I digress. But back to Man City. I mean, there's something. I think there's a little bit wrong fundamentally in the background with Guardiola and a couple of the players. His relationship with them, because I think he's one of these coaches where he wants things done his way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're a player that goes against that, he will basically run you to the ground. I mean, look at Philipp Lahm. Philipp Lahm was more than willing to do whatever it took to be a regular and to be a legend at the club and to follow Guardiola's ways, and playing in central midfield or wherever he played in. But players like Aguero, I think there's a bit of a fractious relationship between him and Guardiola, and the same with the company, in the sense that they're older players, they're more senior players, and Guardiola maybe can't mold them into what he wants them to be. So they kind of go against the grain in that sense.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of how it was at Bayern with Mandzukic and Dante, where essentially Mandzukic was sold after one season because Pep didn't want him. he didn't want to play for Pep. So
well, there you go. I mean, I had Tony Evans on the show a couple of weeks ago. Tony Evans is a fantastic journalist. He was at the Times. He's at ESPN now. And he was telling us that there was a story getting out of Man City that when it came to the deadline day, Guardiola was actually happy to trade Sanchez for Aguero, and the powers that be at City said, no, this isn't going to happen. So for that to happen, makes me believe that obviously the relationship between the two isn't great. And if he's happy to let his best goal scorer, because let's be honest, he's their main man.
Exactly.
For as well as De Bruyne's doing, as well as Silva's doing, as well as all these other players doing, Aguero's the man. So for him to be happy to let him go, I don't know. There must be something going on in the background. But going back to your original question, Man City they're serious. They're serious. But again, when the injuries and suspensions start building up, can the players like Sane go a whole season at 100 miles an hour? Can players like Sterling? I don't know. But look, it's going to be an interesting ride.
For me, they're probably the most interesting as well as most dominant English team, and they're probably the team that I would assume probably make it the furthest in the Champions League. But then again, Pep Guardiola doesn't have a fantastic record away from home in the Champions League, so that remains to be seen, I think. But like I said, for me personally, I think they're probably the strongest team right now, and I think they're most likely to actually win the Premier League.
The thing is, Prince, I mean, when I look at United and City, the one thing we have over them is power, the physicality. When I look at that City team, I can't see any battlers. Do you know what I mean? Like Yaya Toure is a big guy, but he's not even getting a game now, is he? He's not even getting on the bench, is he? I don't know. Kompany is another battler, but he's injury prone. Otamendi, he's one of these South American central defenders that are a bit nasty, but again, he's a bit of a bottle job. So when I look at that team from front to back, when they come across teams that like to give them a kick and get all physical, I don't know if they've got the minerals to cope. So when it comes to, we've got them in a few weeks' time, actually, I think. And that'll be an interesting encounter, as I said, because of the whole physicality thing. Will they like Fellaini and Matic and Lukaku going up against them? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's about bottle. It's about nerve. We saw today with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, and people laud Jurgen Klopp, and I've been saying he's just a German Brendan Rodgers, as far as I'm concerned. He's having goes at journalists now for saying it was a fair result for a 1-1 draw. I don't know, but again, like I said, when it gets down to it, the physicality might be a bit too much for City. But right now, they're firing on all cylinders, mate, and you got to watch out for them.
Yeah. Well, this may be a perfect time to actually switch to Liverpool. Let's talk about Liverpool. They drew 1-1 in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And they drew today in the Premier League. I think they've got 1 win out of 7 games. As you mentioned, you think that Jurgen Klopp is a German Brendan Rodgers. How far do you think they can go both in the Premier League and the Champions League?
Liverpool's problem has been, for a long while, defensively.
Yeah.
They've had this issue for as long as I can remember. I mean, look, last time Liverpool won the league, I was 9 years old. And that's the last time that they had a solid defensive partnership. When you look forward through the years, they had Ruddock, Scales, Björneby, Rob Jones, Bjorn Torok Kwame, Sami Hupia, Jamie Carragher. The last time they had any major success was under Houllier and Benitez, who won the Champions League with them. And even then, they weren't They weren't anything special, but they defended in numbers. They had a very good unit.
Yep.
Klopp doesn't work like that. It's almost as if he's abandoned the whole defensive coaching. I look at the players that he's got. He's got Klavan, he's got Matip, he's got Lovren, Moreno at left back. Nathaniel Klein's injured at the moment, so he's playing Gomez. He's had to play Milner at left back. He brought in the fella from Hull City, Robertson, doesn't play him. I'm thinking, do you not work on any defensive training here? Because the mistakes that they're making, these are mistakes that you'd expect to see from a championship side, or sorry, a League One side or a League Two side. This is diabolical. You're looking at Lovren, who's a £20 million defender. £20 million. It's laughable. But the thing is, with Liverpool going forward, they're scary.
A different story, yeah, exactly.
When they're on form, they're a very vicious side. You got Mane and Salah on the counter. Firmino, Coutinho, who's back in form now. Even Daniel Sturridge. When Daniel Sturridge is fit, he's one of the best English strikers.
Yep.
I think he's a fantastic footballer when he's fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like a Jekyll and Hyde club, aren't they? Even the goalkeepers, they can't even make his mind that he's going to play Mignolet, he's going to play the other fella, what's his name? Karius, yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, they're Jekyll. I mean, it's great to watch as a United fan at the moment because
I can imagine.
Right now they're seventh. I mean, Burnley are ahead of them, precisely. So yeah, it's good to see. But yeah, again, same thing goes with Klopp and Guardiola. The physicality of the Premier League.
Yep.
But it's also Klopp's training methods that I have to question, because every December, January, they seem to get injuries for players that are small, low center of gravity, and it's usually hamstring or it's calf injuries.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, is it this system where he wants players to play 100 miles an hour? Because I know at Dortmund, like, players were averaging like 100 kilometers a game or something.
He ran too much.
Yeah, it's like 10 kilometers a game, 100. It's crazy. So he's expecting players to run, which he's doing now. And I think players get tired, obviously. It's the physicality. And games are coming thick and fast. Last season, we saw them playing only one game a week, and they just about got in the Champions League space. They haven't really strengthened greatly this summer. They put all their eggs in one basket for Van Dijk.
And that didn't happen, exactly.
So they're back to square one again. So yeah, I just think as a Liverpool fan, yeah, a lot of them love Jurgen Klopp because he says the right things. He's got personality, he's got character. You know, he runs up and down the touchline, he gurns. You know, he looks like he hasn't brushed his teeth in 15 years. But for me, it's a pantomime. It's you don't need that. You want substance. You know, if you can back it up, then fair enough.
Yep.
But if you can't, then don't give it. You know?
I mean, nobody's complaining about Conte, for example, who is pretty similar in terms of attitude and whatnot.
But he's won the league, mate. He won the league last season.
Exactly, that's the difference. I mean, Klopp, he's quite a divisive figure. I mean, half the people, especially in the Bayern fan base, when the question came up about who should replace Ancelotti, half the fan base said, "Yeah, we should get Klopp. We should try and get Klopp."
But why?
Just because of his achievements at Dortmund and how much he progressed him. And then the other half is obviously saying, no, he's not doing well at Liverpool right now. He almost got Dortmund relegated. So there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of people that have different thoughts, different opinions on him as a person and him as a coach.
I understand that because okay, I'm going to say something that's going to be slightly controversial.
Okay.
These days we live in an era where social media kind of dictates, or should I say influences and brainwashes a lot of people.
Yep.
And let's be honest, Dortmund, they're a very much loved club. You know, they do things in inverted commas the right way.
Yep.
You know, in terms of the money for the tickets, in terms of the fan base, in terms of loads of things. I mean, you know, they've got a fantastic infrastructure. They've got a great youth system. I know Bayern obviously helped them out in the past. But no, they're a lovable club. You know, there's nothing really there to dislike about them. Obviously, unless you're a Schalke fan or a Bayern fan or whatever. But on the flip side, I said, well, yeah, it's like going to a shop and buying your kid a toy. You buy it, the kid sees it, and then it plays with it for a bit, gets bored, and then it breaks it.
Yep.
And that's effectively how I can describe Borussia Dortmund.
Okay.
Because they get a new manager. He plays about with it. Everyone starts loving him, and then he turns it to pot. Like look at Tuchel. Look at the fellow who's got on top at the moment that came from Ajax. I know he's
Bosch.
I know he's a Cruyff disciple. So obviously, there's that extra love in there. But as you mentioned, Klopp. Well, what did he do? He won on the Bundesliga, got into a Champions League final. Great, fantastic. But then what? It went from up here to down here fast. And why did it happen? Why did that happen? Why would something like this happen? Okay, he lost Lewandowski, he lost Goetze, but why wasn't he good enough to bring anyone else in?
Yep. And the person that he did bring in, Mkhitaryan, didn't work out.
Precisely. So I've got my reservations about him. Like I said, a lot of people aren't going to like what I say about Jurgen Klopp. I do not rate him, but that's just my opinion. Someone else will tell you otherwise. Some a Liverpool fan will say that he's the best thing since sliced bread. I just don't get it. If he turned up at Bayern Munich, I think it'll be all about Jurgen Klopp. It'll be back to the FC Hollywood days.
Yeah, we're pretty much there already.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I don't think he's the right fit for the club, and I don't think he fits the club's philosophy as well. Because look, you've got, it's a very respectable club. Mm-hmm. I've never known Bayern Munich. Okay, like I said, apart from Trapattoni, I've never known Bayern Munich to have a manager that runs up and down the touchline, giving orders to players. I mean, you could have the manager that you had in the past, man. It's a different class. Yeah. That club is a different class. It's a cut above the rest, man. And he wouldn't fit for me. I don't know. But hey, what I know, Arsenal, Man United.
Well, speaking of a manager running up and down the pitch, there's one last Premier League team that is in Europe, and that's Chelsea, who also have a manager.
And Spurs.
Well, okay, that's true. Chelsea and Spurs. Well, let's talk about Chelsea. Last year's champion, just lost against City. But still very respectable. They won 2-1 against Atletico Madrid, and they look pretty good. I think.
Look, Antonio Conte is a very, very good manager. I mean, I think this season is going to be the biggest test in his managerial career, and I say this because Chelsea have just won the league title. They won the league title with effectively a squad that Mourinho left. Mm-hmm. And obviously the players turned against him and whatnot, and he had a really bad last season at Chelsea, didn't he? But Conte came in, he made them more disciplined, he made them work harder. Players like Victor Moses, playing out their skin for him. Alonso come in, did a fantastic job at left back. Eden Hazard got back to his very best. Diego Costa was scoring goals, but then the tide changed. He fell out with Diego Costa in a massive way.
Yeah.
Look, for all Costa's faults, he's Chelsea's main man, as far as I'm concerned.
That is true, yeah. I agree with you.
As good a player as Morata is, don't get me wrong, I think he's a fantastic footballer. His movement is something special. But when it comes to Morata and Diego Costa, you could be 2-3-0 down, right? If you got Diego Costa in that team, I said you could be 2-3-0 down, but you know that he's going to give other teams problems. He's strong, he's burly, he's physical. He'll get in defenders' faces. He'll be nasty. Morata's just too nice. He's too nice of a player. So I think this fallout with Diego Costa could be the beginning of something, because let's be 100% honest, Chelsea are not afraid to sack managers. We've seen it in the past.
Absolutely.
And we've heard it on more than one occasion, in fact, more than 3 or 4 occasions, that Conte is unhappy at Chelsea. And there's no smoke without fire. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last season at the club.
Okay. Really?
I don't. Well, look. I know that Matic was sold against his will. Mm-hmm. He didn't want Matic to go, but he's gone. I don't think he got the players that he wanted this summer. I don't think Rudiger was a player that he wanted. I don't think the new fella from Torino, right fullback, the right wing back, I don't think he's a guy that he wanted. And I don't think Morata was his first choice either. So I think what's the saying? There's more trouble inside of the ship than it looks out on the out, kind of thing. So I think they've got a few issues inside it. But then again, they're the league champions, and I'd be stupid to rule them out of the title challenge because of one result against Man City. They've had a very good start to the Champions League, good result at Atletico Madrid. I can't say it's a tough place to go because that's the second game in the new stadium. The Calderon is a completely different class, different kettle of fish kind of thing,
absolutely.
different atmosphere. But yeah, it's a good win against a very disciplined side, a very similar side in the way they play from a defensive perspective. So yeah, but do I think Chelsea can win it? No, I think that when you've got David Luiz and Cahill as your 2 or 3 main centre backs, they've got mistakes in them. Even Rudiger's mistakes with him. Christensen is a very good defender, but he'll need time. So I still think that defensive 3 is a bit ropey. Bakayoko still needs time to adjust. So yeah, I think out of the English teams in Europe, I think United and City are the 2 to watch out for, and Arsenal, especially in the Europa League, because let's be honest, they should be winning it.
Yeah, I think so too. The thing with Chelsea is, now I've said this on multiple occasions, but I don't really rate Morata at all. I think that in a crucial game, in a game such as like a Champions League, perhaps a Champions League match where you really need an away goal or something, he'll score that goal. But besides that, I just don't see him really score much at all. And I know his stats aren't obviously that great. But for me, like every time when we played against Juventus, when Bayern played against Juventus, I was thinking, okay, Morata, he's gonna get a goal sooner or later because he always gets a goal in these crucial ties. So for me, he's a danger man in like cup competitions, which is why I think Chelsea would actually have a good chance in the Champions League. Whereas somebody like Diego Costa would be like the league striker who would consistently get goals and help the team go forward through that. But again, like I said, I don't think Morata is really going to help them out throughout the whole season, just because he's not that kind of striker, in my opinion.
The thing is, I see where you're coming from because I agree his stats aren't great at all. To be fair, I mean, people say, he's got more goals per 100 minutes or 1,000 minutes or whatever, but these are asinine stats which anyone can come up with. Yeah. The thing is, what I like about Morata is his movement off the ball. The only thing about him is what I say is what I've been told by a lot of ex footballers, especially like a good friend of mine, Leon Knight. He says the important thing about a striker is not just scoring goals, it's what he does when he's not scoring goals. When he goes through a dry patch, what is he doing? Is his link-up play good? I think it is. Is his movement off the ball good? Yes, it is. Does he cause defenders hassle? He does. But is he... Again, I'm looking at Diego Costa, I'm looking at Morata, I'm thinking, which one of the 2 would I prefer to have? Yeah. If I had to choose between one or the other, I know one's a flaky individual, but he'll get you 24, 25 goals in a league season. Or do you get this guy that has just come to the Premier League and he couldn't get in the Real Madrid side, he couldn't get in the Juventus side, but he's still scoring in the Prem. That's the thing. Like he's still scoring, so I can't slate Morata, but at the same time, would I take Costa over him? Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the problem that Chelsea are going to have, though, mate, because when you look at strength in depth, if they had Morata and Costa singing from the same hymn sheet, well, they'd be serious for the Champions League. Yeah. But they're not. His understudy is Batshuayi, and for me, he's one of the most overrated players I've ever seen. His social media presence is better than his presence on the pitch. Yeah, and that's back to what I said about social media before. It brainwashes people to think that people are better than what they actually are. Yeah.
Same really applies to FIFA as well.
Oh, mate, don't get me started. Don't get me started. Honestly.
But talk about strikers. Obviously, there's currently a striker who's in red hot form. I mean, that's a perfect transition, I think. Harry Kane, Tottenham. Let's start with comparisons, because nowadays everyone is comparing Harry Kane to the likes of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Is there anything to that?
Who said it and what they're smoking? Because I want some of that. You cannot compare Harry Kane to Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. You cannot. Okay, let's. Oh, Jesus Christ! I don't even know where to begin with this one because. Look, Harry Kane's in form. He scored 13 goals in September. He's on a fantastic run. I can't slate the guy. Yep. However, having said that, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. Look at how many Ballon d'Ors between them? 11? 10? I don't know how many Ballon d'Ors are between these 2 guys. Yep. You're looking at 2 guys that have done it at the highest level for years.
Yes, exactly.
For years. I mean, I was lucky enough to be at Old Trafford to see Ronaldo on his debut, and I knew that this kid was going to be special. But this guy's won Champions Leagues, he's won Golden Boots, he's won the European Championships, La Liga, Copa del Rey, European Super Cups. Messi the same, and World Club Championships. Okay, Messi hasn't done it for Argentina yet. Crying out loud, man! How can you compare Harry Kane to these guys? No disrespect, he scored the hat-trick against Apoel, he scored 2 against Huddersfield. Okay, great. You can only score what's in front of you.
Exactly.
And people will say Ronaldo scores against Alaves or whatever. Fine, but until Harry Kane contributes to a championship-winning season, I cannot put him up there. I cannot. I can't even put him up there with Alan Shearer. Like people talking about him today, about he's like Alan Shearer. How? Because Alan Shearer only won 1 trophy in his whole career, and Harry Kane is almost on the verge of winning nothing.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't won anything with Spurs yet. Yeah. And Spurs can cope without him. That's the thing. They can cope without him because it's proven. The stats show last season that when he wasn't there, they actually won majority of their games.
Yeah.
So it's not as if they're a one-man team. But to compare him with Messi and Ronaldo is asinine at best. I mean, honestly, it's embarrassing. It really is.
Well, speaking of winning trophies, do you think they can win the Premier League or the Champions League?
No.
Just straight up no.
No, and again, I will tell you why. Because in Pochettino, they've got a manager that can only work with a certain age group. And by that, I mean, apart from Llorente, I can't think of any other player he's bought that's late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
Every player he's signed is a youngster. Which is good, don't get me wrong. And he's done wonders with Dele Alli and Harry Kane, obviously, and one who came through the youth system. But when it comes to... Okay, let's put the season that Leicester won the league title, right? And Spurs came third, right? I remember they played West Brom and they drew 1-1, and that effectively gave Leicester the title. Not the 2-2 draw between Chelsea and Spurs. It was the 1-1 draw at West Brom where they kind of slipped up there. If Pochettino had 2-3 players in that squad with experience of winning league titles, of doing it at the highest level, big pressure situations, big players, they would have won that game, and I think they would have won the league.
Okay.
But they don't. They don't have these kind of players. They haven't got. They're full of bottlers. They're full of bottlers. They are. I mean, look at Hugo Lloris, right? Did so well at Lyon, won league championships, whatnot. But then when it came to the European Championships final, he's beaten from 35 yards with a daisy cutter. Yeah. We saw for France a few weeks ago against Sweden, where he came tearing out of his box. He makes mistakes, big mistakes, and you can't win league titles when you've got a goalkeeper that makes big mistakes. Yeah. The back line is pretty settled, but then again, Kieran Trippier at right wing back, I don't know, man. I really don't know. Ben Davies at left wing back. Again, I don't know. Can these players perform week in, week out at the highest level? I don't think so. And then you've got the conundrum of Dele Alli, who, he's a fantastic footballer, but, with Barcelona, and Real Madrid sniffing about, how long until his head turns? He's not loyal to Spurs. He doesn't owe them anything. And I think Spurs need to win something this season. They do, for the sake of these players, because I know they're moving into the new stadium next season. And what they don't want is to move into a new stadium and to have what Atletico Madrid were going through, and they're having their best player being touted at other clubs, because it distracts them completely. Yep. So I think Spurs need to win a trophy soon. Otherwise, you're going to see 2 or 3 players thinking, well, this isn't the place for me. Fair enough, we've evolved, but have we evolved enough to a point where we can say, yeah, we want to stay here and win trophies? Because let's be 100% honest. Leicester won the league title, Chelsea won the league title, and those 2 seasons Spurs were challenging. Now United are back to the best, City are back to their best. Chelsea are still going to be up there, so that's already 3 teams they need to contend with. Arsenal are slowly picking up points now. I know they're not great, but they've won 3 games on a bounce, I think. So. It's a different league. It's a different animal now. So Spurs really need to step it up, and they're at Wembley as well. And there's a whole lot going on for them at the moment. I don't think they'll be a challenge this season, to be fair.
Okay. Well, now those are the English teams. Let's go over to the German teams, and I don't know where we should start, but you know what? Let's just start with
start with Köln and Werder Bremen and Hamburg. Start with them 3.
Wow.
Start from the bottom. I'm joking.
No. I think we're going to start with the big one, in my opinion, which is PSG versus Bayern. Oh boy, where do we even begin? I mean, that match essentially sealed Carlo Ancelotti's fate. Overall, it was a pretty poor performance. I mean, I thought and we didn't look as bad as the newspapers were trying to make it out to be, but we had much worse games in the recent few weeks. But it was still a very bad match for a game that people were expecting, to be on eye to eye, where both teams go for it and both teams try and go for it. Both teams will score a goal here and there, and it just ended up being a one-sided match. Where we tried to go forward and then PSG just countered every single time. And that was almost 90 minutes, or 88 minutes, I should say. And overall, I just thought that was a terrible display from us. It sealed Ancelotti's fate. He got sacked the day after. And it started bringing up that topic of should Bayern spend, or should the Bundesliga teams in general spend a lot more money than they have done in the past. Something similar to the English teams where, for example, Manchester United, you've spent a lot of money on Lukaku. Manchester City, every year they're spending a lot of money. So the question obviously came, should the Bundesliga teams spend as much money as the counterparts? But just to go back to that game, obviously PSG being a prime example, spending a lot of money and then now having good results. So first of all, did you actually see that PSG versus Bayern match? I know we mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I was flicking through the channels because obviously United were so comfortably beating CSKA Moscow. I thought, let me see what the other teams are doing. And you guys went behind after like 2 minutes or something like that.
Yep.
And the thing is, in games like that, it happened to us last season when we played Chelsea. We were a goal down after like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
When that happens, the writing's on the wall. You don't come back from that because you're away from home in a big game against a big team. That are very powerful and quick going forward, and to go behind that early, it's a point of no return, isn't it? I feel for Ancelotti because I really rate him. I really, really rate him. I think what he's done as a manager is phenomenal. I mean, winning the Champions League with Milan, and which it wasn't really a phenomenal Milan side, was it? Let's be honest. I just feel for him, but yeah, you guys. I mean, you didn't play as bad as the scoreline suggests. You had your chances.
Exactly.
It's not as if like you were completely blitzed to the point where you didn't cross the halfway line. It wasn't. Listen, I've seen you play bad. I remember you played Barcelona a few years ago, and you got absolutely battered at the Nou Camp, and that was the worst I've seen Bayern Munich for years.
Yeah, that was one of the worst performances.
But see, the thing is, Bayern Munich and Man United are similar in the sense that when United lose badly, they lose badly. And that's the same with Bayern. I remember losing 5-0 to Newcastle, 6-3 to Southampton. When you guys get hammered, it's the same kind of thing. We're like, just throwing the towel. But it wasn't a bad performance. I know that like you've been stuttering lately. And let's be honest, with the greatest respect, I mean, when you look at your central defensive pairing, I think you had, was it Javi Martinez and who else was the other centre-back that day?
Sule.
Yeah, come on now. I mean, what do you expect?
To be fair, that was Ancelotti's fault. We did have Boateng and Hummels available and ready to go.
Yeah, but why didn't he play him then?
He just that's the question. That's why the players started revolting, rebelling, I should say, because Carlo Ancelotti just sent Boateng to the stands and Hummels on the bench, and instead decided to play Javi and Sule.
Is there a chance that he had a fallout with them? Is there a chance that they broke some kind of curfew or something? I don't know. You just don't know what happened to the back. No, nothing.
No, according to all the newspapers, it's basically just him giving the lineup without even an explanation, and that's what really started it all.
Okay, well, there you go. You kind of make a rod for your own back there. But then again, look, let's be 100% honest. Let's rewind. And we had this conversation last time on my show, and I think we've tweeted about it. Lahm and Alonso.
Yeah.
Two very, very big characters in the dressing room.
Yep.
Right. To lose one player is bad. To lose two with that experience, you're going to have it. It happened with us. Ferdinand went, Vidic went, Evra went, and that's 3 players with experience. Giggs retired, 4 players with like over 2,000 games under their belt. I mean, you can't buy that experience. Players that have won everything at the highest level. It's the same with Lahm and Alonso. And then you look at the rest of the squad. You got Robin on the wrong side of 30, Ribery on the wrong side of 30. Vidal is is a good player, but is he really that player in the middle of the park that's going to dominate games? That kind of Toliso's okay, but again, first season.
Exactly.
Then you look at Alaba at left back,
who's been struggling for 2 years now.
Yeah, he's on the wane. Müller.
Struggling.
Another player who likes to piss about in the background and do these videos and whatnot is like Podolski, that kind of. It's only really Lewandowski that's had any form of consistency in this team, and that's a problem because when he doesn't score, I can't see the likes of Thiago chipping in. I can't see, it's worrying times. Coman,
absolutely.
young player, very raw talent, but he still needs time, and it's a very unforgiving league, the Bundesliga. Mm-hmm. You get found out easy, and that's because players are so technically better than a lot of the other leagues. If you don't have it, then you're never going to have it. It's that simple. So yeah, I just think that you're going through a transitional phase at the moment. Whoever comes in now, I know Sanyo's interim manager for the time being. I don't think he's going to become permanent. They
already said that they're looking at someone. They're talking to someone right now.
There you go. So they've got someone in mind, and I think they maybe have had someone in mind for a while because. Let's be honest, you guys didn't get to the greatest of starts of the season, and the one thing I'll give German clubs or presidents credit for is that they're very good at foreseeing the future when it comes to managers because they when they see a bad start, they think, let's start looking about just in case. It's like when you know that you're about to break up with your girlfriend. You think that something's not right, but you just shop about a bit beforehand. You change your phone number, and you get another phone, and that kind of thing. Not that I've done anything like that before. I'm just saying. So it's interesting times ahead for Bayern. I mean, you might get a new manager. You're going to get the new manager bounce, but as you saw today, you got a new manager come in just for the time being, and you blew a 2-goal lead. And I think it's like the second. I think it's the second consecutive game you've done that.
It is
time in your history. So.
Ever. Second time, 2 times in a row. First time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Let's move over to Dortmund. Just because they're currently first in the Bundesliga, 5 points clear. They're winning despite not having played well. They've not lost a single game in the Bundesliga so far. Obviously, in Champions League, that's a different story. But in the Bundesliga, they've looked very, very good. Only conceded 1 goal, I believe. And they've just, despite not even playing outstanding, despite not even being at their limits, they've still been cruising. So the worrying thing is obviously what happens if they actually start playing to their limits, what actually happens once they get going properly. Will it just be a cakewalk for them? Will they win the Bundesliga? And so on and so forth. But obviously the big focus is the Champions League, where they lost against Real Madrid in... Personally, my opinion, a game they could have done better in, as in gotten perhaps a draw from. Although I did think that Real Madrid, as well, could have gotten a lot more goals than the scoreline suggested. I don't know if you saw that match, but if you did, what do you think about it? And if you didn't, then what do you think Dortmund could do to really improve going from here on out?
Well, it's the same. It's the same situation with a lot of clubs these days. Defensively, they haven't been a defensive unit for a long time, and it goes back to what I said about Klopp at Liverpool. Same sort of thing at Dortmund. I don't remember Dortmund ever being defensively sound under Klopp. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were great going forward. Marco Reus, Lewandowski, Götze, Kagel, whatever. But they just they never had like a cohesive unit defensively. And then when I look at players like Babastafopoulos, actually I can say that because I'm Greek. So players like him, and I don't know. I know Piszczek is a very good defender, but again, he's another one. Is he going downhill a bit? Same with Alaba. But then they've got good players like Castro. Obviously, Aubameyang is a fantastic footballer. Shaheen's a good player. Weigl good. Pulisic is going to come of age soon. But that Real Madrid game, wasn't there an incident with a handball with Ramos at 0-0?
Yeah.
Was it 0-0 at the time before Bale scored? So
I think it was 0-0. Or it might have been 1-0, but I think it was 0-0.
They get that penalty, and it could have been a different game. We know that they give Real Madrid a tough time anyway. We've seen it in the past. But what's this thing with this new goalkeeper? Because I know, what's his name? Wiedenfaller. What's happened to him? Shouldn't he be number one?
No, he's been pretty much gone. Not gone, but he's just been number 2 now for a good, I think, 2 years now.
Mate, because this keeper I'm seeing, he's awful.
Yep.
He's awful. Honestly, never trust a goalkeeper who wears short sleeve shirts, man. Never trust him. Never.
Well, that's a lesson learned, everyone. If you're watching this, that's what you need to know.
Never trust them. Never trust them. Especially the ones that shave their arms.
Worrying times indeed.
I'll be honest. I mean, Dortmund, they're cruising at the moment in Bundesliga. I mean, I think they've won 4 straight wins now. They got a good win against Augsburg yesterday. Kagawa scored a lovely chip. But then you got to talk about Aubameyang's penalty. What is he doing? Again, another player that believes the hype around him. You know, fantastic going forward. He's quick, but you know, give him a couple kicks and let him lose a couple yards of pace and see how good he is. They made a shrewd signing in Yarmolenko. The only criticism I have of him is that maybe it's come maybe a couple of years too late. But look, you can't fault them at the moment. They're running away with the Bundesliga, 5 points clear, only 2 goals conceded. So yeah, and they've basically capitalised on your misgivings, so to speak. So
unfortunately,
yeah. Well, there you go. But good luck to them, because I think your league, the Bundesliga, does need a shake-up because you guys have been dominating too much, and it's slowly becoming like the SPL, not quality-wise, but in terms of like you kind of know who's going to win it. But yeah, same with La Liga, the Serie A actually, to be fair. But anyway, that's by the way.
Well, let's talk about the final team, which is Leipzig, RB Leipzig. Considering that you just mentioned the shake-up, and last season everyone saw how they did and expected them to be that shake-up this season after reinforcing here and there. Of course, their players going to leave next year in Naby Keita, but overall they've not really lost any players and they've strengthened the squad, and yet they are struggling in the Champions League. Could that just be because they're new in the Champions League, they're trying to adjust to it? Or do you think them losing 2-0 to Besiktas in the previous game as well, where I thought they were the better team and they still didn't win, is that just a sign of we're not ready yet?
I think it is, yes. The thing is, going into the Champions League, it's a different animal. It's a completely different animal to what you're expecting from your domestic league, because there's so many different things. Obviously, you're going through to a different country. You're doing this, you're doing that. You're different systems, different mentality. Look, Besiktas, I think they're a very good team at the moment. I mean, they made some very shrewd signings.
Exactly.
And they've still got Quaresma, who's just this enigma, isn't he? You know, you just don't know what you're going to get from him. And you know, a player that refuses to use his left foot to pass the ball and he just uses the outside of his right foot. He's just
master of outside of the foot.
Exactly, yeah. He's but you got players like Negredo, they've got Pepe, Medel, even Ryan Babel. So they've got a good team there, Besiktas. But I think with Leipzig, I think it's a different. I think it's a mentality thing. Okay. And as I said, it's very tricky to go to places like Besiktas and Monaco and Porto and expect to get the same kind of not results, but the same kind of performances as you get in your domestic league, because as I said, it's a different animal, it's a different mentality. I think they need. It's the same with Leicester. Remember when Leicester got in the Champions League last season? They did really well. They started well, and then they got out of a pretty basic group, to be fair. And they came across a team like Atletico Madrid, and you know what happened, kind of thing. So I don't know. I think that it's a learning curve for Leipzig. I think if they can get in the top 3 this season, they'll be good. They got a good win today. I know it's only Cologne, but they battled it today. It showed they got a bit of balls, you know, to hold on to that 2-1. So yeah, it just takes time for these teams to adapt to new surroundings and whatnot. And if they can bring in two things, they didn't really strengthen, did they, in the summer?
No, but they just kept on to their players, and I think they got like 1 new player or so, but nothing major. But I think the big thing was that they actually were able to keep their players.
The thing is, I mean, I don't know too much about them from a background perspective. I know they're owned by Red Bull, but they got New York Red Bulls, they got Red Bull Salzburg. are they putting as much financial clout into Leipzig as they are with the others, or they are?
Yeah.
So okay. And do you think that they're going to be using that Champions League money to give back to the club? Because I'm interested to know this, because you've seen it so many times with new owners. I'll give you an example. There's a Cypriot team called Anorthosis. I don't know if you've heard of them. They beat Olympiacos in the Champions League a few years ago, and they were the first Cypriot team to qualify for the Champions League. Okay. They got to the group stage, and when they got knocked out, their chairman took 10 million quid from the bank, put it in a bag and left, and you haven't seen them since. Right? So are Leipzig one of these clubs where, Red Bull were like, okay, we'll take the money, but then we'll just do whatever we want with it. And
honestly,
I don't know. I don't know about Leipzig. Are they like an MK Dons where they just come from out of nowhere and no one knows about them? I don't know too much about them.
Well, yeah, they've only really been established a few years ago, so, and since then they've risen through all the leagues. But with Leipzig, I actually feel like the owners of Red Bull, they're actually dedicated to that. I mean, they were talking about recently about building a new stadium, despite the current stadium not even. I don't think the current stadium is fully booked, fully sold out every match day. But they were talking about building a new stadium just because of the European competitions in the future that they aspire to get into and that they want to compete regularly in. So it does actually seem like the owners look at it much more as a project rather than just a cash, rather than just taking cash out. Something similar like how Chelsea, where you have Abramovich, putting money into the club, and him just trying to increase the reputation as well as just the overall talent of the squad through the years.
Well, look at what's happened with Monaco, right? They had a really good season last season. Yeah. Silva left, Bakayoko left, Mbappe left. So effectively, you lost 3 key players. Okay, they kept Falcao, they kept a few others, Lamar, but they haven't been the same.
Yep.
And you said that Keita's going to Liverpool in the summer.
Yep.
They got Timo Werner, and they've got Forsberg as well. So if these 3 players end up leaving this summer, are we going to be talking about them as potential title challengers next season? I don't see it. Are they one of these teams that can attract names? Yep. Because let's be honest, they're not like, I don't know, they're not like a Wolfsburg that have got a big financial clout behind them. They're not like a Man City, for example, who've got billions in the bank. They can afford to. Yep. So they're going to have to look at the lower leagues and see what players they can bring from Bundesliga 2 or wherever they can get these players from. Because let's be honest, when you're a team like Leipzig, you have a good season, the Sharks start circling, and the Sharks are these big clubs.
Absolutely.
It's either hanging on to these players or chucking them in the ocean and saying, right, take them, because we're not going to be able to hang on to them. Yeah. It's all down to the scouting system. Do they have a scouting system that can look at players in Africa or Southern Europe or even in Scandinavia? Because a lot of players come from there who are fantastic. Yeah. So I think it's a difficult one for for Leipzig. But as you said before, they're owned by Red Bull, so I mean the name alone might be enough. I mean, I don't know, maybe players get free energy drinks at half time or
that would be an incentive to join. I mean, speaking of Red Bull, I mean their youth system as well as their scouting system is absolutely fantastic. So I don't think
that's good.
It's probably their youth system is probably the youth team is probably the best in Germany. Which
really? Okay.
So they're going to be one definitely in the future to look out for. The scouting is also very, very good. So I think that's why the team is full of youngsters instead of just experienced veterans. I mean, they can't really be experienced veterans until they buy them. But yeah, I mean that's basically what Red Bull is all about. Similar to Monaco.
And then their head coach, his first name is Ralph. I mean, that's a great name. Ralph.
Yeah. But speaking of Red Bull, because I wanted to draw that comparison, obviously, between the leagues. I mean, Red Bull, they haven't really done it yet, but people are expecting them to spend a lot of money, perhaps sooner than later. And obviously, a comparison then draws to England, where there's a lot of money being spent on individual players. And obviously, with what we saw in the Champions League and the Bundesliga, and how the English teams did in the Champions League, compared to the Bundesliga teams, how they did in the Champions League. The question is, does a lot of money guarantee success?
It doesn't guarantee success, but it helps a long way. Helps a long way. Look, let's Man City as an example. If the Arabs didn't buy the club and give them billions to spend, would they be challenging for the title of the Champions League? No. I mean, they had Taksin Shinawatra before. They had players like Craig Bellamy and Carlos Tevez and Gareth Barry and Adebayor, but they weren't challenging, were they? They were a nuisance, but they weren't challenging. The moment the Arabs come along and say, here you go, open checkbook, bring in whoever you want. There you go. Yeah. So the proof is in the pudding. Look at Milan at the moment, though. They haven't started great. But having said that, it always takes a year or 2 years to get that team in order. I mean, I personally think that Montella will be gone pretty soon. They lost again today. They lost to Roma. And I think Ancelotti will go back.
Same here.
I think he'll go back to Milan, and he'll spend big in the summer. And they'll be Serie A champions within 2 years.
Ooh, that's a bold prediction.
And I'll say this because as good as Juventus are, again, they're another team that they've got players on the wrong side of 30. Chiellini, Barzagli, the goalkeeper, Buffon. He's 40, isn't he?
Exactly, I was going to say.
Not even the wrong side of 30, he's the wrong side of 40. And Wojciech Szczesny isn't going to win you league titles, I'm sorry. Higuain isn't as consistent as I'd like him to be at the highest level, like Champions Leagues and whatnot. So look, there's going to have to be major reinforcements at Juventus sometime soon. Let's be honest, and they're not replacing players gradually. They're going to have to do it all at once. Whereas Milan, at the moment, they've signed some very good players. The Portuguese striker up top, he's pretty decent. Andre Silva, that's his name, isn't it? Andre Silva.
Yeah,
his name. They signed Bonucci. He's a very good defender. They've made some shrewd signings, a few questionable ones as well. But if anyone can turn this team into championship contenders, it's Ancelotti.
Exactly.
And I think another team to look out for in Serie A is Inter, because Spalletti there, and they have got money backing them as well.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be a very intriguing. It's going to be very similar to the Premier League in terms of competition. I think in the next couple of years in Serie A, because of the transition, obviously with Juventus and the money that's coming from other clubs.
Yeah. Then you have obviously the outsiders such as Napoli as well.
Exactly. But to answer your question, I mean, does money guarantee success? Well, if you look at last year's Champions League winners, Real Madrid, they spent quite a bit of money, haven't they? I mean, they broke the transfer record for Ronaldo. He's been their greatest ever player. So in that sense, it did kind of guarantee success. PSG at the moment are the favourites to win it for some reason.
I wouldn't quite call it that. I think Real Madrid should still be the favourite.
If you listen to British media, as soon as they beat Celtic. They beat Celtic, and all of a sudden, so and they got Neymar, so that means they're immediate favourites. But they got the financial clout, so you can look at them, and they spent money, so they'll be favourites. Man United spent money, they'll be up there. So all the teams that you're looking at as potential favourites have spent money. You look at Bayern Munich now, you wouldn't say that they're favourites for anything.
Absolutely not.
And that's because of the reason that we've spoken about before with the transition and this and that. But they haven't spent big. Signing James Rodriguez, I thought at the time was a fantastic move. I thought, he'll do very well in Bundesliga. But
I still think so, to be fair.
Yeah, but he needs time, and he's there for how long? He's got a season?
2
Is it
years, I think. 2 years.
For 2 years. Yeah. So he'll take time to acclimatise, and he may become a catalyst for change. You never know. Yeah. You might be playing through him. But at the same time, do they give him time to adjust? I think now that the tide is turning a little bit, the mentality is turning a little bit in the Bundesliga. Teams and coaches are becoming less patient.
Yep.
And before it was, we'll give them time to adjust and give them time to adapt and whatnot, and then we'll see how they go. Yep. But now, as you can see, and I think it's because of what's happening abroad, because of what's happening in other countries. It's influencing what's happening in Germany. We always say the Germans are efficient. We always say the Germans pave the way for certain things. I mean, I know full well that there are teams in Australia, A-League teams, who are looking for German coaches because they feel that's the way to play. They got the best attitude, the best mentality, the best philosophy. I hate that word. Thanks, Van Gaal. But, that kind of that attitude. But it's not being replicated by German clubs. Tuchel didn't get much time, did he? Really? And he got stabbed in the back. So what's happening in the Bundesliga? It's happening. They're like similar to other countries. They're looking at other countries and they think, oh, well, hang about, we'll give him 4 games like they did to the ball. So I think the likes of Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Leipzig, if they want to compete in Champions League, they need to get the checkbook out and bring in these players.
Yeah.
The other question is, can they attract these players?
That's a fair question.
I think only one of the 3 can, and it's Bayern Munich, and that's because of the lineage, because of the history.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive club. See, people fail to remember how many Champions Leagues, but European Cups Bayern Munich have won in the past.
Yeah.
The players that they've had. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, players like Klaus Augenthaler, Lothar Matthäus. For Christ's sake, I loved that Inter Milan team with Jurgen Klinsmann, with Bremer and Lothar Matthäus.
Yeah.
I had the Italian 90 Germany shirt.
Okay.
I wore it to Cyprus, and my dad was telling me, I was 9 years old, he goes, don't wear that out in the tourist area because the English will beat you up.
I've had a similar experience recently with that a few years ago.
Mate, honestly, so you know where I'm coming from. So listen, you're talking about a club with history that most clubs can just drool over.
Mm-hmm.
So can they attract big players? Of course they can. It's Bayern Munich, for Christ's sake, But what's his name? Uli
Hoeneß?
Yeah, he needs to get off his high horse and say, right, we're going to start signing these players now, because the tide has changed. As I said, the climate has changed. It's not just about bringing in, your relative, your players for your Lewandowskis from other clubs, because that's what Bayern Munich effectively do, don't they? They look at the best players in the Bundesliga. Sorry, I'm signing him. I'm signing him. I'm signing him.
Pretty
Boom.
much.
But now it's like, well, you've got to spend big. And I know it's going against the morals of the club, because obviously it goes back to the whole ticket pricing, it's the safe standing, it's all the whole romantic side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys need to get your checkbook out and start bringing in big names, because you can do it. Bayern will attract players, but it's about, right, you want to be serious contenders. You don't want Dortmund to be winning the league at a canter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's a long answer of a short one, really.
Well, I think that's probably a perfect time to end it then. That's a perfect answer. That's a perfect way to end it.
What do you think you should do? This is your show, man. Tell me what should Bayern Munich do?
Oh
because,
boy.
I know you can go on a lot about the club and how they've got so much stuff going on in the background and whatnot. But what do you think? Because obviously, I'm not a Bayern Munich fan. I'm not a massive Bundesliga fan. I don't support any club there, so I can't. How can I put it? Speak on behalf of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see the likes of United spending £78 million on Lukaku and City spending X amount of money on these players, what do you guys think? Do you think, I wish we could do that, or do you think, they're ruining the game in that sense?
Well, that's the issue. That is the issue when it comes to Bayern, because I think. Let me just quickly talk about the fan base in of itself, because half the fan base would want us to spend that kind of money. They would want us to spend, say, 100 million on one player, whatnot, and then half the other fan base, they're against that idea. Then you obviously have people inside the club, such as Uli Hoeneß, who is against that idea, and then you have someone like Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, who is also for that idea. So it's not just the fan base that is divided; it's also the higher ups, the managers and whatnot, and just the people in charge. So overall, I mean, that's a pretty divisive topic. That's a topic that divides a lot of people. Personally, I think we should spend that kind of money. I think if we have that kind of money, we should spend it. But I don't think we should just waste it. I think if we're going to spend that kind of money, I think we should look at a player that can truly help us. So, for example, right now the issues are our wingers. Perhaps get a winger in that maybe costs 70 million or so, or 80 million, or even goes high as say 100 and I don't know, however much money they have in the bank. I'd say if it's absolutely necessary, go for it. Personally, I would have loved if we would have gone for Mbappe. That was probably my wish signing of the summer. Didn't happen. But then again, you can always also, that's the thing, I don't think spending money isn't really the solution to everything. Because, for example, I think 2 years ago it was when Ousmane Dembele was at Rennes. We were supposedly interested in him, and if we would have gotten him, for that amount of money that Rennes would have charged, like 15 million euros, I would have been happy. I would have been satisfied. I think he's a fantastic player. So I don't think it's necessary to really spend that kind of money. But if you have a weak area and the solution is to spend that kind of money, if you have the player, if there's a solution out there that can truly help you to get that kind of player, then I'd say absolutely go for it. Obviously the issue is if you spend that kind of money, then all the clubs will start demanding more money, and you kind of get situations where, for example, if Bayern were to go for a player right now, we'd probably only have to pay half the price that a team from the Premier League would have to spend, just because we're not known to spend money, whereas you guys are known to spend that kind of money. So I guess it's a double-edged sword. If you start spending more money, teams will demand more money, and if you don't start spending more money, you're going to get left behind.
But the thing is, Prince, the situation that you guys are in at the moment is because you're going through this period where you need to bring in players. Teams are going to think, they have to spend money so we can increase our prices. I mean, I know that you've the Bundesliga has agreed a new TV deal, hasn't they? Haven't they? So I think it's like 80% increase from previous years?
Somewhere along those lines, yeah. It's one third of the Premier League's.
Right. So if you win, whoever wins the Bundesliga, how much are they going to make?
I have honestly no idea. I think close. I think the overall thing is 1 billion. So
it's spread out across 18 clubs, isn't it?
Yeah.
18 clubs. So
perhaps
we're looking
100 million, give or take.
100 million. Yeah, 100 million. Yeah, 100 million for winning the Bundesliga, which is about the same as what you'd get for ending 20th in the Premier League. So that's true. So yeah, I mean, look, Bayern have money. Yeah. There's no two ways about it. Listen, if Bayern Munich want a player, they will go out and get him.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. I just think that the way that the club is at the moment, there's so much going on. It's like you can pick things apart. I mean, I'm not a Bayern fan, as you know. So, and from an outsider looking in, I can see that there are problems. So you obviously see a lot more.
Yeah.
And you've probably got a more. I don't know, because of the way that I know you are, because you're like me in the sense that you're not afraid to call it like it is when it comes to your club. If a player's rubbish, you'll call them out and say, right, you're not performing. That's it. Whereas other fans are like, no, give him a chance. No, sorry. You're wearing the shirt. This club has history. We're not like a team that's come from nowhere and just started sticking our nose in. No.
Exactly.
This is a massive team with a worldwide fan base. I mean, I know a few guys that work for Bayern Munich in the US. And it's a massive club out there, massive, huge fan base. So they're not a namby-pamby side. So if Bayern Munich want a player, they will go out and get them.
Exactly.
The thing is, what I admire most about Bayern is that, as I said, they're very shrewd in the way they do things. They first of all, they got a structure in the sense that they got people there that either played for the club or have worked for the club over a certain period of time. So they know they know about the ethos of the club, what it means to represent that shirt. But then on the flip side, you've got people that know how long a player's got on a shelf life kind of things. So like what you guys did with Hargreaves. I mean, we were fighting to get Hargreaves for so long. And then all of a sudden you say, yeah, take him. We're like, yeah, wicked, we got him. And then it's like he sold us a car with a rubbish engine. We had a good season out of him. But then after that was it. So Bayern was laughing, like the same with Schweinsteiger. Okay, you can have Schweinsteiger in a couple of years. And then he comes to us and he's a fat mess. He's too busy worried about going to watch.
I can already see the comments now. I can see the comments after that comment from you.
He's just. I'm sorry, obviously United fans loved him, and look, I've got no problem with him. I know the communications director at Chicago Fire, and he's doing a fantastic job there. In terms of things in the background with youngsters, with the stuff in the community, and even on the pitch, he's been a massive influence. It's no coincidence that since he's joined Chicago Fire, they've actually got in the playoffs for the first time in like 5 seasons or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
So he's obviously had an impact out there, but you're talking about the Premier League, right? And he was, a favourite of Van Gaal, so he got away with a lot of stuff. He got away with a lot of stuff, and I think he took the piss a bit as well. But yeah, like I said, you guys have got this habit of having players and be like, well, okay, we don't need them, but you can have them. We sold you a dud kind of thing. But it's kind of gone full circle now with the players that you've brought in the sense that they haven't really stepped up. I don't think there's a spine as well. I think with Neuer being out, it's a big loss.
Yeah.
When I look at you defensively, okay, fair enough. Hummels and Boateng are very good defenders, but again, goes back to what you're saying about Alaba and your right back. Kimmich. Is it Kimmich?
Yeah.
He's a youngster, so he still needs time. So it just reminds me of how we were. I wouldn't even say under Moyes. I'd say under when it was when we sold. Let me think. That season, it was when we had Bellion, Jemba, Liam Miller, and then we got rid of them, and then we brought in Ronaldo, Rooney, and we had these players there. We had the experienced players in Ferdinand and all these others, and then we brought in these youngsters and mixed them up, which I think that's what you guys are trying to do at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think there's just something not right there at the moment. You know, again, like I said with Lewandowski, who's your other main striker who's going to get you 20 goals? Who's going to get you 15 goals? I mean, I'm surprised you lot didn't go for Hernandez, to be honest.
Okay.
Because he's proven in the Bundesliga, he's happy to sit on the bench, he'll get you goals.
Yeah.
And I think he'd have been the perfect fit for Bayern, to be fair. But that's just me coming from someone that's only seen him score with his arse. You know, you've seen him week in, week out. Leverkusen, maybe he wasn't great, but which is why he went to West Ham. But like I said, if Bayern Munich want a player, they'll go and get them. If they get the right manager in, or the man that they feel that they're going to back 100%, they'll give him money to spend in January, and they'll give him money to spend it in August. That's it. Like I said, it's a massive club, mate. It's a massive club. So don't feel that it's the end of the world. You're going through a transitional period. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. But if they bring in the man that they trust, I can't see you not winning the title again. There's no two ways about it. You're the best team in Germany, hands down.
Perfect way to end it. Perfect way to end it.
Well, it's
best
a
team
fact.
in Germany.
Look, there's no arguments here. I know Dortmund are the top at the moment and the table doesn't lie, which is true. But if you didn't have so many issues at the moment,
exactly,
you'd be walking away with it again. Because look, Lewandowski gets you goals left, right, and centre. You know, Ribery gets you goals. Robben gets you goals. But I just don't think you got strength in depth. But having said that, do Dortmund have strength in depth? If Aubameyang gets injured, who's going to step in for them? If Castro gets injured, who's going to step in for them? So it's all ifs and buts at the moment. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, and you're only 6 or 7 games into it. So, you know, I think it's too early to panic. We know that there are cracks there, but they can be sorted. Like I said, it's a big club. You're not going to be in the mire for a long time. I can't see anyway.
To be fair, neither can I, in all honesty.
People panic, mate. Like I said, we live in a time where managers, like I said, only get 4 games. I mean, people panic. I mean, there was a manager in Greece that got sacked after 11 days in charge. 11 days. That's ridiculous. And they had 2 games in those 11 days. They drew 1 and lost 1. So it's ridiculous how football is at the moment. But listen, at the end of the day, you know, as I said again, I keep repeating myself. You're not going to be stuck in the mire for too long. The club is too big to be an average Bundesliga side. You'll come good.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, as you said, we kind of live in an era where opinions change once a week, if not more than that. So it's just kind of annoying, I think, when you see somebody praise someone one day and then, you know, be totally against him the next day. So. Well, I guess that's what comes with football. That's what comes with territory, and I think that kind of also depends. That also affects the team. You look at someone like Alaba, like I said, he hasn't played well in 2 years. He's now starting to come under fire a little bit, not handling it very well, and it's just an issue. I think in Bayern, for the Bayern team itself, it's just an issue that they're not really used to being criticised. They're used to being hailed. And right now they'd have to deal with that situation and just move on from that.
It's a mentality thing, mate. It's a mentality thing. As you said, you've had players that have had their egos massaged for a long, long time. You know, they say that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. That's a crap 80s song, do you know what I mean? But you know, it's case in point. When you've got footballers, look, this is what separates good players from great players. Great players are able to overcome adversity. Look at the struggles that Ronaldo has had, Messi has had, Zidane. Look at the you know, all these players in the past have had something go wrong in their careers. Maradona, look how many issues he had at bloody Napoli, you know, with the mafia and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? He's one of the greatest players ever. Do you know why? Because he scrubbed his boots. He said, right, this is my game. Yeah, this is my pitch. Right, you ain't gonna stop me from doing my shit, kind of thing. So, at the end of the day, it's all about buckling up and working as a team and working as a unit. We know the Germans are the best at doing that. And maybe this is what these players need. Maybe this is what they need to actually get a kick up the arse and say, right, you know, this is Bayern Munich. Maybe they need the fans to turn up at the training ground and say, what are you doing? This is Bayern Munich. This is Bayern Munich. We're not FC Köln. We're not Stuttgart. This is Bayern Munich, mate. Yeah. Pull your socks up and get results on the pitch because you're better than that. Suck it up. Stop being a whiny little bitch and just suck it up and do your job. Do your thing. And they will, because like I said, I keep repeating myself. They're too big. They're too big a club. Listen, they're too big a club to let players do that. Trust me. They're not. They're not like a Chelsea where they'll let players revolt. They will get rid of 3 or 4 players if they're bad eggs, and they'll do it because they're ruthless.
Yep.
Ruthless like that, and that's how it should be.
Yep. Well, thank you for being here, Stel.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you very much. Sorry for waffling on.
Nah, that's perfectly fine. In all honesty, just one last time, where can they find you? And I'll obviously leave the link in the description down below.
You can find me in North London. No, you can find me on Twitter @OnAMadness. I've got a Twitter handle for Shoot the Defense, which is @ShootTheDefense. With a YouTube channel. Subscribe, follow us on FNX. We've got a Facebook group page. What else have we got? That's pretty much it, man.
That's a lot.
I'd like to apologise in advance if you see a lot of dislikes on this video. But,
I honestly don't care. If you get dislikes for sharing your opinion, then let a dislike come.
Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. So
Exactly. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If you made it this far, yeah. I don't know really how to end it. All I'm gonna say is that was fun. That was quite fun. And yeah, until next time. Everyone. Bye and have a nice day. Bye.
Ciao.